Winter in the Arctic is brutal. My face is already iced over, and it hurts like hell when it falls off. I just pulled up the fish trap, and in no time, it turned rock solid. It feels like it could break bones. Cutting it open brings pure joy. Such deliciousness can only be found in the Arctic. It's day 58 of the challenge. Only 4 contestants remain. The camera shifts to Wanaya. He feels the weather getting colder. Even wrapped in a blanket by the fire, he can't stay warm. The toughest part is the short daylight hours, making it hard to finish tasks. Nathan's struggling too. He's heating stones in the fire to warm his bed. No clue how the others are handling the cold. Jordan hardly slept, repeatedly waking to add firewood, using over half of it in one night. He spends much of his time chopping and hauling wood, but fortunately, he has enough stored meat and doesn't need to hunt. It's day 60 of the challenge, and at Barry's camp, the snow is falling heavily, making it very uncomfortable. So, he mostly stays in his sleeping bag, moving to stay warm. Meanwhile, Wanaya keeps busy. He's breaking ice to get drinking water every day. It's really getting to him. It's day 61 of the challenge. Nathan feels weaker and weaker. His traps aren't yielding much. He desperately needs food to regain energy. Otherwise, he might just collapse. No idea how the others are doing. It's day 62 of the challenge. Barry's situation is dire. His shelter is full of ice. It feels like he's lying in a freezer. When he heats the fire, the place fills with steam. How can anyone endure this? On day 63, Jordan made a special tool to weave a gill net. The cold has frozen his face, making it a hassle to clean. I couldn't survive a day out here. He scans the area quickly. Fishing appears to be the only chance. The lake ice is quite thick now. If he sets a net, he might catch something. Weaving the net is relatively simple. Why start now? Because he had plenty of meat before, so there was no need for a gill net. Now he needs fat for energy. He speeds up the process. Weaving with loose rope isn't easy. Even with tools to help, I originally didn't plan to fish. If it weren't for the wolves eating all the fat, I would probably still be lying in bed sleeping. No one can win without fat, enduring the cold, and dealing with repetitive tasks. Jordan finds this even tougher than 99.6, always pushing himself to get through it. Before nightfall, I barely made any progress. Had I known it would be this difficult, I would have prepped the weaving earlier. On the 64th day of the challenge, Wanaya couldn't sleep because of the cold and upgraded the shelter again. He was utterly exhausted, frequently hearing noises outside. He couldn't tell if it was rabbits moving, or maybe it was just the wind rustling the branches. Regardless, he had set traps, hoping to catch a rabbit. Wanaya was in a good mood as she got up to check the traps. There were signs of animal activity on the ground. But the traps were empty, hindered by the snow. Catching rabbits would be even tougher now. It was the first time Wanaya felt so weak, with almost all his body fat consumed. At this time, he especially needed food. The most frustrating thing was that fox tracks were increasing. Even if he caught a rabbit, it wouldn't be good, as the foxes had cleaned the area. There should be no rabbits in this area. Wanaya was in a very bad mood, having not eaten for several days. He was losing weight fast. If he didn't find food soon, the show would have to pull him out. I was just curious why he didn't go fishing. Wanaya thought for a while and finally remembered the intestines in the pot could be used as bait. If he didn't catch any fish, he'd have to go home and sleep. He had planned to use the intestines for soup. Now he could only hope to trade them for a fish. Wanaya was quite helpless about cleaning the intestines because they were really disgusting inside. He pushed through the discomfort, cleaned them well, and cooked a few to try. The taste was better than he expected. He could still eat them to curb his cravings. By day 65, Barry missed his family deeply. He wasn't as enthusiastic as at the beginning, spending most of his time by the fire. The biggest problem now wasn't hunger, but his hands were freezing even with gloves on. He was so cold and impatient that he wished he could stick his hands into the fire to warm them. I have no idea how many are still in, but I'm at my breaking point. I just want to go home and hug my daughter, and play with my son. The days with family are just too important. If I stay here any longer, Barry feels like he's on the brink. He must adapt to the ever-changing situation or he'll have to head home. Currently, he's only catching rabbits and fish. He's planning to set traps nearby, but with this weather, snowfall will reduce the trap's effectiveness, so time is running out. His success hinges on finding food in the next few days. Barry thought the challenge would be over by now and he'd be home after 2 months. This just proves how tough the contestants are. He always thought he could win the prize money, but now he wants to quit and go home. It proves that the show selection process is pretty strong. Barry gathered stones to secure the traps, hoping to keep them functional despite the snow. He's unsure when he'll catch a rabbit. The traps are well set, so they won't fail. Once a rabbit touches one, it's caught. Even though the traps are secure from foxes, Barry remains unsure. He's contemplating the right moment to quit the challenge. On day 65, Jordan crafted skis in his downtime, making snow travel much easier. He finally completed his project. These days have been really tough. He's down to just a bit of fat, the rest is all muscle. No matter how much he eats, he's still hungry. He hopes to catch some fish. With these skis, he can go further to fish. Even though the ice is thicker than he expected, walking on it still makes him a bit nervous. Soon, Jordan reached his ice fishing spot. He grabbed an axe and began hacking at the ice, which was tiring for him. Fortunately, the ice wasn't too thick. To set the gill net right, he measures the distance between the holes carefully. Then, he ties the net to a stick and pushes it through to the other side. The setup process went smoothly. Jordan finally felt relieved. Now he can pile some snow over it to cover it up. This will prevent it from freezing over. The whole process took more energy than he expected. If he doesn't catch a fish, his situation will become quite dire. On the 66th day of the challenge, Nathan was busy upgrading his shelter. The nighttime temperatures are just too cold. He can't sleep peacefully. After some adjustments, it's a bit better. But the cold remains unyielding. Food is the top priority now. The traps have been out for some time, but the recent cold has made me hesitant to check them. My body is struggling, and I'm relying on the fishing net. I'm counting on catching a fish to regain my strength. I'll have the net ready to go in the water tomorrow. If I don't catch a fish, I'll have to go home soon. I hope the others quit first. The camera shifts to Barry. The traps haven't been effective, which doesn't surprise him at all. His body weakens daily, and he sees no reason to go on. Quitting won't make them declare a winner immediately. For the first time, he feels utterly powerless. There's absolutely no food left. He deeply misses his family, whom he hasn't seen in ages, and questions who could endure this challenge. Before heading out, he wants to check the other side of the river. The ice isn't as solid as he thought, so he needs to be careful to avoid falling in. With the materials he collected, he crafted some improvised ice skates. Barry hopes to use the prize money to buy a house for his family. The pressure of debt is immense, but he feels helpless. It's beyond just enduring hunger now. He avoids dwelling on home and aims to wrap up this project quickly. If he can just reach the other side, he might find some food. He quickly made a simple version of the skates, and they seem to work well. At least he doesn't have to worry about falling suddenly. Although walking is easier, it's still very exhausting. The longer he walks, the more exhausted he becomes. He regrets coming here, but taking a break to drink water makes it worthwhile. He didn't expect to make it this far, but his body is extremely weak, and he breaks down emotionally. He really wants to win the prize and take it home, but he just doesn't have the strength. He hopes his family understands. Barry really doesn't want to leave and cries bitterly. The challenge has reached day 67. Nathan, seeking better sleep, put hot stones under him for warmth. It helps somewhat. At least it's warmer now, but there's a risk of fire. Last night, he got scared when he smelled something burning. He was terrified, so he got up and checked for a long time. Living here is convenient because it's very dry. Smoke comes out from time to time. I originally planned to set up a net, but now I have to deal with this first. After Nathan made some adjustments, it shouldn't catch fire again. Life no longer requires using a bow drill. Life is getting better, but food is too scarce. I need to hurry and set up the net. The ice here is pretty solid. Standing on it is no problem, but I'm worried the water isn't deep enough. If I could catch a fish, I could keep going. Nathan grabbed the axe and continued breaking the ice, reminiscing about ice fishing with his grandfather. Back then, he was clueless. His grandfather taught him survival skills firsthand. Nathan visits home every few years, mostly because he can't afford airfare. He hopes to win the prize money to reunite his family. Finally, the ice broke open. As long as he can get the rod in, he believes fish will come. Tomorrow, he'll know if there's food. Nathan feels especially tired today. His body really needs rest. He's done everything he can. If the net doesn't catch any fish, he might have to quit the challenge. He's concerned about the issues from his low weight. The prize money matters, but being alive for his family matters more. For the first time, Nathan really wants to go home. He has so much to say to his wife. He wonders how she's been. This is the longest he's been away without contact. If he can, Nathan still wants to keep going. On the 68th day of the challenge, Jordan woke up feeling the weather getting colder. His hairline was already receding a bit. The lack of nutrition recently has made it worse. If this continues, a big patch might go bald. He wonders if it will recover with some care. Despite this, it shouldn't affect his looks. It's time to check the net. If he can catch a fish, it would be great. The fat from the fish is crucial. Walking on the ice is really exhausting. He has to constantly watch the ice conditions. No one can be sure the ice is solid. He gets angry whenever he remembers the fat the wolverine took. If he gets eliminated because of the missing fat, he wants to get back at that wolverine. The net worked better than he thought. Jordan noticed some heft as he reeled it in. It had been ages since he'd seen such a fine fish. Despite its modest size, the fish's fat content would help him regain strength, and it was already firm despite being out of the water for just a short time. Jordan was overjoyed. He quickly cleaned the fish and ate what he could right away. It had been ages since he had savored something so satisfying. If Jordan could snag 2 more fish, the prize would be his. On the 69th day, Wanaya remained determined. She gathered her ropes and relocated, hoping for better luck. She hoped for different results, as the cold weather made it crucial to have enough food to maintain body heat. Without enough food, the body faces many issues. She wondered if the traps would yield any surprises, given the lack of tracks nearby. Just when she was about to give up, she discovered a squirrel in the trap. Even a small catch was precious food. Wanaya hoped the other traps would work too. She used the squirrel's innards as bait, thinking it would lure fish. To her surprise, another trap caught a squirrel, making her feel like she had gathered all the squirrels in the area. She was sure she could have a full meal today. If she could keep up this pace, she believed she could do even better. On the 69th day of the challenge, Barry was in a terrible state. He felt like he was starving to death, having lost a lot of weight since he arrived. Today was the day for a medical checkup, and he was considering quitting the challenge. At first, the prize money seemed very important, but it had become incredibly hard to endure. He didn't even know how many contestants were left. He feared that if he left, the winner would be announced right after. He could only hope for good news. The show's crew came to check on the contestants. Everyone wanted to keep going, but the checkup revealed their conditions had significantly deteriorated since they arrived. The doctors feared the contestants' bodies wouldn't last, especially Barry's. He was in the worst shape and couldn't go on. Barry had thought about being forced to quit, but facing it was hard to accept. He felt he could say he was quitting, but not be forced out. He didn't think it was that dangerous and believed he could keep going. The crew kept urging him to quit, not wanting any issues from pushing too hard. Barry was very upset about it. He didn't think it would end this way. He missed the chance to check his net one last time and was surprised so many were still competing. But his body had reached its limit. If he gets another shot, he aims to last the full 100 days. He thought about his family and hoped to see them soon. With Barry gone, only 3 contestants were left. Who do you think will win the prize? Let's wait and see together.